Sorry, guys, we had some technical difficulties there. So what I was saying before we got cut off was what we're doing is essentially building in small mini off seasons and developmental periods in our 8 to 12 to 16 week training cycles instead of spending 8, 12, 16 weeks
One
emphasizing
energy system.
one long energy system and the big developmental period. We'll see like small peaks throughout our entire
Yeah.
training cycle. So you want to jump into what this one looks like?
Yeah, you want to start with, well, we're on energy system, so let's continue on that. You guys will see a lot more monostructural work. You will see more bike work. You will see more rowing. You will see track work. You will also see some of those elements mixed in with strongman work, like sandbags, weighted carries, things like that, and also some sled stuff.
So I just want to say, while this cycle is intended to prepare people for an event like Wadapalooza, you're not necessarily going to see us starting full event style mixed
No.
pieces from the beginning. We're going to slowly develop and increase the volume into those higher volume. It's like for event specific stuff, it's like where high skill, high volume, high intensity all culminate into one.
Yeah, exactly. We will start with just energy system work, not mixed, not sport, not event specific. Bike work.
Yeah.
You will have bike tests to start, you will have a road test to start, and you will have a track test to start the cycle off.
For those of our folks that are competing, rest periods are going to be very important if you want to adapt well and start to truly increase the volume in a safe and effective way where your body will have a high level of adaptation. Your performance will be on par with that, and you'll see that big curve right before the event. So what does that mean? That means ample rest in between sessions. I already know, we see it in the gym all the time, we talk to people all the time, they have a suboptimal schedule and they cannot rest 3-4 hours in between sessions. That is the most ideal scenario. And if you're a candidate for being able to rest and eat and recover in between sessions, we highly recommend that you do so. And if you're not, one session's okay. You will survive.
Yeah, you just have to perform that session with the required intensity.
Correct.
And when we do this energy system work, you will have prescribed intensities. We're going to be basing all our bike work off of watts this cycle. So you will start with 2 bike tests, and you will record your average watts on both, and every week we'll have a prescribed wattage based off that test. It'll have repeats and prescribed rest, and your goal is to be consistent with that power output. We will do the same on a road test. We're starting with a 5K test, and then everything else has prescribed pacing splits after that.
Cool. What does gymnastics look like?
So our gymnastics work right now, coming off the open, we're going to move away from, again, what we call sport-specific gymnastics.
So that's like kipping handstand push-ups, kipping muscle-ups, etc.
Less kipping work. We're going to do a lot more strict work. We're going to do what Danny calls tissue work.
Got props.
What's tissue work?
This is tissue work. Something that we call tissue work. It's like kind of the to bridge the gap between strict work and strength work in gymnastics and sport specific and kipping work, right?
So I'll give you an example. You're commonly going to see rope climbs in events, regardless. Wadapalooza, Granite Games, whatever the event is, you're probably going to have some rope climb variation, legless or full rope climb. So in a previous cycle leading up to the open, our strict work would be weighted chin-ups or weighted pull-ups. Now we might have strict rope pull-ups. We might have rope climb up, legless, eccentrics down. That is tissue work. You're conditioning the tendons and the musculature used in that movement, but not in a fast-paced kipping setting. Right? It's stricter. There's more time and attention. We're focusing on eccentrics. We're focusing on longer loading times to build some tendon and muscle strength.
Right. One of the biggest issues we see in CrossFit, is, especially in regards to like injury prevention, is people go and this is for high-level athletes as well. In their off-season training and as they're ramping up, they go way too quickly into very high-volume kipping exercises. And while some people have the capacity for that, for us, it's more about how do we make the best in our sport greater. And the way that we do that is to continue getting stronger. for whatever reason, people have a very hard time understanding the function of that in regards to gymnastics. If we write out a well periodized barbell squat program, it's going to make sense for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to understand. For whatever reason, in the sport of fitness, when you talk about gymnastics, everyone abandons those philosophies. And to be honest, I don't quite understand why. If the tempo makes sense with a barbell squat, if volume versus intensity makes sense with a deadlift or a press, why can't we utilize some of those same models and techniques for gymnastics? Just because we're using our own body weight does not necessarily mean it's not a strength exercise.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that you're not going to do a strict muscle up and tell me that you don't need a prerequisite amount of strength to pull yourself over the rings, turn over in a good position, and to fully press
You
out.
definitely do, and that strength you build doing strict ring muscle ups is going to transfer over to your kipping.
Absolutely.
I think where people feel frustrated when they do strict work like this and strength work is in the transition back to kipping.
Right.
It's always going to feel a little weird. It's going to feel a little off because you haven't been performing it as much. But once you get the movement pattern down again, once you get used to it, the strength will carry over and your kipping gymnastics will improve.
They'll improve, but not only that is the concept and the hope is that the strength will be there, which will help the injury prevention.
Absolutely.
Because it's a realistic part of our sport that the amount of kipping volume and butterfly, et cetera, that we put ourselves under, that's where injuries lie.
Yep, 100%.
What does like weightlifting and strength work look like in this training cycle?
Lifting work, well, we have more battery work now. For those of you that have been following us, we've done some battery work leading up to the Open. We will do more, and it'll be a little bit different. So battery work for us is testing a completely different energy system. It's your alactic system. It's phosphate creatine production. Essentially, what we're testing is how repeatable are you with a heavy explosive movement. How repeatable are you at 90% of your clean and jerk? How repeatable are you with heavy snatches? We see that in open wads. We see that in competition where you have to do a heavy barbell multiple times with other movements. We start training that in our battery pieces, and right now we're going to take a step back. Our battery pieces will be less mixed. They'll have less movement variations, and there'll be more actual barbell work. So you'll have complexes, and then you'll have to perform repeats at certain percentages based off your heavy complex for the day. Just really trying to make you guys even more repeatable at heavier barbells, heavier percentages.
If you look at a model, an event like 20.4, some of the best times in our sport are not owned by the people that are strongest in our sport.
No.
Just off the top of my head, and this is not doing any research, but I think one of the strongest women in our sport, if not the strongest, might be like Danny Spiegel right now, someone on that level, and those were not the top times we saw in 20.4.
Well, I mean, Castro even said it in his Instagram post. It's like we're not testing who's the strongest. We're testing who's the strongest fit person.
Correct.
And that's our goal with battery work. It's not to make. Yes, we want you to get stronger. It'd be great if everyone PRs their clean and jerks, but if we get you to the point that you can hit 90 or 95% of your clean and jerk over and over in a workout, I'm way happier with that than a 3 kilo PR.
As long as you have a good base, right? So like if you're a male and your max clean and jerk is 285. Yeah,
we need to get stronger.
We need to get stronger, and that should be the emphasis. But if you're a male and your max clean and jerk is somewhere in the 330 range, sure, you could get stronger, and that would be fun and cool for Instagram and might make you feel real good. But honestly, in our sport, there's not a whole lot of reason to be much stronger than that. But what we would like to push is your efficiency, and I want to see how many times you can do 315. And that doesn't always necessarily mean we need to push the 335. It's about efficiency. And once we become more efficient, we want to see how efficient we can be under fatigue.
Yeah.
And we'll start to see that towards the end of this cycle.
Right. So more EMOM work in this cycle, more technique work with the barbell, also more battery work.
What about strength work? So when I say strength work, what about squatting, pulling, pressing?
We are still squatting twice a week. What you will see more is more pressing and accessory movements after your conditioning for the day, more accessory work. We will also be introducing more deadlift workouts. So you will see deadlift. In the last cycle leading up to the Open, we did a lot of deadlift clusters. We did strength work before conditioning. Now we're going to start putting it into wads. We know, I mean, everyone noticed during the open, it's very different moving 225 and then moving it in a workout on a deadlift. We will see more of that. Again, like that will move towards what we call competition prep. You're, it's not like you never see it, but you're more likely to see a moderately heavy barbell for reps in a competition than you are like a 1 rep max.
Correct. I mean, and even when like 1 rep maxes are tested, they tend to be at the end of an event, in the middle of the weekend, the
Right.
first event for day 2. We very rarely see true strength tests in CrossFit, whether that be in qualifiers, whether that be in events, whether that be in workout tests. True, just pure strength tests, we see them very seldomly.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
I think the overall theme of this cycle is more, more volume, moving away from open style movements and more strict work, more strength work within that volume increase. You know?
I just want to make sure that as everything increases and as we take on the philosophy of more, that also means more recovery.
Yep.
That means more food. That means more mindfulness. That means more note taking. That means more awareness of your training. If you want to maximize your experience doing a high volume training program, it all has to increase. And if you are not the candidate for that, you guys can post on the group and we will communicate with our coaches and we'll give you some feedback about effective ways to do so. More is not the solution for everyone, regardless of what your training goals are. In 2018, we sent our last team to the games, and everyone on that team worked a full-time job and were in school.
Right.
And that's the most success we've ever had at the CrossFit Games. So more is not always better. More is better if you have the lifestyle that can sustain more.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. It's more recovery, more intensity, more focus in your training that matters.
Right.
You know, the volume is the last thing we add on, and only when it's absolutely needed. So yeah, we are saying there's more now, and that's just natural. We have to do more after the open. We have to get back to pre-open fitness levels, and that's fine. We're going to do a little bit more to get there, but the focus has to be recovery, intensity, and actually like focusing on what the work is for the day. If it's bike work, you're doing it with intention and you're really focusing on hitting your goal for the day, not just getting the work in. It has to be focused, and yeah, that's this
Cool.
cycle.
You got
If you
anything
have
else?
questions, no, I think that's it. Yeah, if you have questions, post below. We're more than happy to answer them.
Cool. Thanks, guys.